Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Vintage Fountain Pens. In this episode, I will talk about my latest acquisition. It is one of my favorite German brands, and this time we will talk about the KAWECO Sonderklasse 685 model, which I was fortunate enough to buy in its original box. This model of KAWECO fountain pen is from 1952 and 1958, and this is the original card box package in which it came. You can see on the side the number of the model 685 and EF, the size of the nib. It is an extra fine nib. The box it is in quite good condition, and what I love about this box is the fact that it comes with the original papers. So let's look at it. This is the receipt, and it's interesting because it is written in Romania. It has also a date, but unfortunately, we don't have the year of the transaction. It's quite in a poor quality paper, but it is what it is, and I'm proud that I have the original receipt. So this fountain pen was made in Germany and sold in Romania, my country. I believe it was sold in the 1950s or the early 1960s. Let's look at the instructions. So you can see that we have different languages, and it's quite well made, because if you open it at instructions for use, we can see in English the instructions, and let me read them to you. To fill, remove small cap by turning it from right to left. Move piston as far as its foremost position by turning milled knob from right to left. Immerse nib in ink and screw piston back until resistance is felt. Replace small cap on the barrel and remove surplus ink from nib. After use, replace cap on the top by screwing it down tightly to clean. Repeat filling operation several times using cold water instead of ink. Never try to take your pen to pieces. Repairs can be made by skills specialists only. And if we reach, let's say, this part, manera de uso, we have in Spanish. And of course, we have also the same instructions in German. So, quite nice pamphlet, a quite nice instructions manual, and I'm glad that I also have this instructions manual. Let's look at the back. For youth, for ladies, for gentlemen, and this is the fountain pen from KAWECO. I will leave the original package aside, and I will take the fountain pen out of the box. Let's close the box, put it aside. So practically this is the fountain pen. You can see that this fountain pen is almost, and I believe, in NOS condition. So I think it was used slightly. When I bought it, I tried to clean it with cold water, but I didn't see signs of ink. So it is quite possible that this pen was never used. So KAWECO engraved on the barrel, Sonderklasse 685 EF. Okay. Let me tell you about the KAWECO Sonderklasse. So the KAWECO Sonderklasse formed at the top of the line of the KAWECO products in the 1950s. And they had a lifetime warranty. So this is a typical product of the 1950s. But as the name Sonderklasse, what does Sonderklasse mean? If you look on the dictionary and translate it to English, Sonderklasse means special class of or top grade. And I've already told you that KAWECO used this name between 1952 and 1958 to identify this fountain pen as a top product of theirs, as a premium product of theirs. Of course, between 1915 and 1952, they use Meisterklasse name, but maybe due to the fact that Montblanc already had the Meisterstück, they choose to replace this name, so Meisterklasse, with Sonderklasse. This is a typical product, a German product of the 1950s. And when I say that, look at this beautiful torpedo shape, at this domed ending of the cap. As you can see, it comes in this ending with the logo of the KAWECO. You can see KAWECO. It is typical of the German fountain pens of that time, of the 1950s, with this classic black celluloid and with those gold trims that you can see. This fountain pen has the cap on screws, and we can admire the beautiful, beautiful two-toned gold nib. As you can see, we have 14 karat, 585 and the logo KAWECO. I always loved this open nib by KAWECO in two-tone, but this is my first fountain pen that has this characteristic. You can see the classic ink window. We have a slightly tone of green to it. We continue with KAWECO Sonderklasse 685 EF and the blind cap. We unscrew the blind cap and we can see the piston filling mechanism. So this is our fountain pen, a beautiful, beautiful fountain pen. I already told you that this is the typical German product of the 1950s. And to show this to you, I have prepared a rather big number of fountain pens from my collection. So let's leave this aside here, the KAWECO, and I wanted to show you the famous Pelican 100, which started in 1929, this trend of piston filling mechanism with an ink window. Let's leave this aside here, and we continue with the Shonaken, a beautiful model of the Shonaken. This is from the 1940s. You can see the flat ending of the cap and of the turning knob. I have another KAWECO model from 1938. This is the KAWECO original number 52. It's interesting that this comes also with it comes with a blind cap, but we have here a button filler. I also have the KAWECO Dia. This is KAWECO Dia 802G from the 1950s. Beautiful, beautiful fountain pen. And of course, what would be a KAWECO presentation without the KAWECO Sport? And I will start with my oldest model, the KAWECO 12. This fountain pen is quite similar to the Sonderklasse fountain pen in the sense that we have almost the same window. Of course, this is also a model from the beginning of the 50s, and you can see the green is more pronounced on the sport model. But also the ink window has a greenish tint to it on the Sonderklasse. Let's close this and let's put it aside. Of course, I have another KAWECO Sport. This time is a set. This is a mechanical pencil, and this is the V12 model. V stands for hooded nib, so this has a hooded nib. It's the next evolution in the design of those products. Of course, speaking of hooded nibs, I have another KAWECO Dia. This is a model from the early 1960s. And this time we have a KAWECO V3. V stands again for the hooded or semi-hooded nib. You can see the resemblance. This I was also fortunate to get with original papers and warranty, and a beautiful, beautiful cardboard box. I'm very proud of it. Let's put also this aside. And I want to show you Die Gruner, or a Pelican 140 from the beginning of the 1950s. You can see the same open nib, the ink window, but this time the piston is integrated, so we don't have a blind cap. Yes, and you can see the modern use of new materials. This isn't a cork ending, but it is a rather plastic ending. Maybe it is made after 1955 because of the use of alternative materials. Let's put this aside. And why not? I will show you a model which isn't a German model. It is an American model from Waterman. It is a Waterman Commando, a lever filler, and it has this beautiful, beautiful 14 karat gold nib. Being a lever filler, of course, we don't have the ink window. Also a celluloid model. But this was made from 1940 till approximately 1945. So during the years of the World War II. Another interesting model, you can see the Lamar made in Germany. And as you may notice, this is a brown model with the gold cap. In the 1950s, you must know that the Germans' preferred color was black, and those models which came in different colors, they were export models. The same blind cap, and I think this is also made of celluloid. The same screwed in cap. Okay, let's leave this aside. I have here also a Mont Blanc 254, also from the beginning of the 1950s. You might notice the lack of the Mont Blanc logo at the end of the cap. I have also in its original etui, Mont Blanc etui from the 1950s, I have a student model, Mont Blanc Monte Rosa. And this is another beautiful, beautiful model from Mont Blanc. And I also have for you the famous Meisterstück line. This is 146 model from 1952. Look at this beautiful, beautiful nib. Of course, it is a piston filler. We don't have a blind cap. And I will end my short presentation with a model from Luxor, also with in its original box and with papers. And let's see, I will leave this here because I want to compare the two models and you will make an idea about what I am talking. You must know that the models, the German models from the 1950s, the early 1950s, are my favorite fountain pens in my collection. I love the gold open nibs. I love the ebonite feeds. I love the ink windows. And I love the piston filling mechanisms. For me, it's not a problem if I have a blind cap or the cap is integrated in the system, like the Pelican or the Mont Blanc Meisterstück line. So let's look at those two models. They are made approximately in the same years. You can see the endings. You can see the blind cap starting with the KAWECO model and ending with this beautiful Luxor model. The same gold trims, the same ending of the cap, but the KAWECO has the logo and the screwed in caps. Let's look at them. And I particularly want to show you the beautiful, beautiful gold nibs. And you can see them all original. And again, I love the KAWECO two-toned gold nib. Speaking of two-tone gold nib, let's put also the Mont Blanc here. Of course, it isn't a fair comparison because the 146 has a 6 size nib. But I want to show you the beautiful gold nibs. There's quite an elegance to them. And ebonite feeds. We have a ski slope feed specific to the 1940s and early 1950s on Mont Blanc. Next, I have the feed from Luxor, which you can see is quite similar with the ebonite feed from the KAWECO model. Let's leave the Mont Blanc aside and let's look at those fountain pens. They are made in the early 50s because you can see the cork ending of the piston. This is a cork. You can see it in the light. And I think this is not a cork but a replacement made out of plastic, which means that this is an earlier model from Luxor. I'll put this aside. I will put my notepad here because I want to do a writing sample. But first, let's put our KAWECO model here. Next to it, I will put the Luxor model here. Let's put also the Monte Rosa model here and the Mont Blanc model, the 140 dark green from Pelican, and let's see what models I have from the 50s. Yes, also this Lamar fountain pen made in Germany, and why not the KAWECO Dia from the 1950s. And I will put also the V3 model from the KAWECO from the early 1960s. I hope you can see them all. The largest of them is the Meisterstück 146 from Mont Blanc. I will leave the dimensions of the KAWECO Sonderklasse 685 on the screen, and then I will do the writing sample. As you can see, this is a medium-sized fountain pen, and I don't know if I told you, But this Sonderklasse was launched in the 1950s in three different sizes. So it was small, 684. This is a medium, 685, and the largest one was named 687. Okay, so I will put the other fountain pens aside, and after that I will do a short writing sample. And I hope you forgive me, but I don't want to fill the fountain pen, so I will simply dip it in ink. You will see that the ebonite feed, it helps a lot to retain ink, and I think I can do the writing sample. So for the writing sample, I have here the Faber-Castell turquoise. Okay, ink. It is a quite affordable ink and a nice ink. So, like I told you, let's see if it posts. Yes, it posts. You can write it quite well with it. But I prefer to use my vintage fountain pens uncapped to avoid the little scratches on the barrel. Let's shake the ink bottle. Okay, so I will dip it, simply dip it. So I'm sorry guys, but I'm pro using fountain pens, of course, but this being a NOS model, it is a shame to, with original papers, it is a shame to fill it. Of course, there will be others that I can fill the barrel with ink. And let's, okay. Remember to always put the cap on the ink to avoid accidents. And now I'm finally ready for the writing sample. So it is a little bit difficult to operate the fountain pen. Let's write with it. So we have a KAWECO Sonderklasse. The model is 685, and it was made between 1952 and 1958. Of course, made in Germany. Made in Germany. We have a 14 karat 585 extra fine nib, a two-tone nib, beautiful nib. Let's see if we have some flex to it. Yes, it is a semi-flexible nib, as you can see, a quite nice nib, a juicy nib. An important aspect, I paid for it, the price was 95 euros or 110 American dollars, including the transportation cost. And for me, this is a bargain because you rarely find original fountain pens in an NOS condition with papers and original box. So for me, this was a bargain price. This was my presentation of a beautiful KAWECO model. And I'm sorry this took so long, but I want to offer you a perspective of the 1950s fountain pen industry in Germany. Thank you for your time. If you liked this vintage review of this KAWECO model, please subscribe to my channel to see other vintage and modern fountain pens. I wish you to have a nice day. Bye bye.